morning. Can you hear me? Is it loud enough? Good. Okay, great. It's an honor for me to be here at such a critical event for Oman and for our company. Today I'm going to talk about how the private sector can help Oman achieve the 2040 vision. So first I'll begin with the various things that I want to talk about today, beginning with our people. People are really the foundation not only of our company, but of the country. And they're really important to our success and the success of Oman 2040. Secondly, I want to talk about some of the business practices that have helped us create opportunities for Omanis outside of our company. And the last thing I want to talk about is how Oxy can be a support for Vision 2040 as we go toward a low-carbon environment, and that is more to renewables and power generation that has less emissions. So first, beginning with our people. I read in the pre-read documents that there was a concern that some of the Omani people prefer to work for the government because those jobs have more security. So I took that as a challenge. You know, our companies in the private sector have to be able to compete. We have to provide employees with a workplace that not only is challenging, but rewarding. So we work a lot on our culture, and through our culture, what we try to do is empower and engage our employees. And if we can do that, we believe that we can attract the talent that we need to be successful. And the data shows that if you have a highly engaged workforce, you're likely to create, and if you're in the upper quartile of that with employee engagement, you're likely to generate 50% more total shareholder value for your company and for your shareholders than other companies. So culture is important. And as a part of that culture, to continue to keep our employees engaged, we really focus on employee development and what we can do for training. So in country here in Oman, we have developed 3 state-of-the-art learning centers for our employees. They're located in Muscat, our operations in Makaysna, and in northern Oman. These learning centers have a capacity to train 240 employees a day. And in the Muscat Center, we have a simulator which enables us to actually train on scenarios that our employees could face in our field operations. So this accelerates their learning in a classroom environment where it's safe, so that they can learn some of the things that they might encounter in the field and how to deal with it. So in addition to these learning centers, one of the things that I think is most exciting about a development program we have for our employees is that we send key employees who are either engineers or geoscientists. We select them to go to Houston for training. In this Houston training group, but we send the employees with a specific project to work on. So it's not classroom training, it's really dealing with a key project that we have here in Oman. These training assignments are not for a week or a month. These training assignments are for 2 years normally, and at least 1 year, but up to 2 years. They go and they stay in Houston. And in Houston, they work within a team that's all Omanis, working on the projects and the things that we need to solve here in country. The reason that's important is they're away from the operations and they're in an environment where they can really focus on the task at hand. And they get the opportunity to collaborate with other employees, other of our employees in Houston. And so if you were to refer back to what Dr. Hausman would say about this, he would say that these employees that we send to Houston are learning more letters and creating more words, and therefore have a broader experience and will be able to do more when they come back here to Oman. But that's not the only thing that happens. Our Houston employees learn from our Omanis who go to Houston. So that's a win-win scenario for our company. And that's one of our most successful training programs, because when you're learning on a real-life scenario, that learning sticks with you. Another thing that we've developed is, and this is a pilot program for our company. We're piloting it here in Oman. It's a virtual reality center where we have developed and used these high-fidelity 3D virtual reality to simulate a plant operation, so our employees can learn more about the plant, what to do in the plant through this virtual reality. Again, another safe environment for learning, and it's like they're really out there working on things. We're also going to take this same sort of technology and apply it to subsurface learning as well. So it's not just for learning about things that are on the surface. We believe that we can do our jobs better and actually use this as a tool to improve our characterization of our reservoirs and our subsurface. So this is really important for us. The other thing that we're doing with respect to in-country value initiatives is we have several programs, one of which is around the local community contractors. We now have more than 56 local community contractors working for us. We have 5 of these super community contractors working for us, and those have been a value add to our operations. And to help those, especially the super large ones get started, our team worked with the companies to try to ensure that they had the right personnel, the right business plan, and help them learn the financials and how they needed to run their business. And so that's been a successful thing for us. The other thing is with respect to our small and medium enterprises, we now have, we've worked with and spent up to $100 million since the inception of the program in 2014. So we're aggressively working with our SMEs to make sure that they're being successful. And now out of the SME program, in some cases, they've more than quadrupled the size of their company. So the 2 now have actually moved into the large size category. So we're having success with that. Now we're the largest oil and gas company, independent company here operating in Oman. And as such, we have 2,700 Oxy employees, 90% of whom are Omani. So 2,700 employees in country, 90% Omanis. Now this number here on the slide is a little bit outdated. We've created 20,000 total jobs. So the jobs that are outside of our company that we've been able to create are over 17,000. And that includes direct contractors working for us and then contractors working for those contractors. So out of the direct contractors that work for us, and those number over 14,000, almost 50% of those are now Omanis. So that's working well for us and working well for our continued development and creation of jobs. Now I want to talk about some of what I think is one of the more exciting things we're doing, because many of our peer companies in the oil and gas industry are also working with SMEs and working with local community contractors. They're doing those things as well and creating value and jobs. But one of the things that I believe ultimately we will be able to make a difference with, and it's unique to us, is to move Oman further toward a lower carbon energy environment. And what that means is that we will move ultimately to a lower emission environment. And to do that, part of it is starting to use renewables. And in our Mukhaizna operations, we recently signed an MOU with a solar company to install 2 gigawatts of solar power energy in our Mukhaizna steam operations. That'll generate about 100,000 barrels per day of steam. That MOU is in place, and we're starting to move toward getting that installed. In addition, I hear that Oman will soon put in some wind power. Now, on the right side of this slide shows 2 technologies that are unique to us now, to Oxy, in that we've invested in these 2 technologies. The top one is what's called net power. Net power is a new type of electric generation that it doesn't use the natural gas with air. It combusts natural gas with oxygen, and in doing that generates a lower cost electricity and a pure stream of CO2. Now, the pure stream of CO2 can be used in enhanced oil recovery. And we at Occidental, we're the largest CO2 handler in the world for enhanced oil recovery. Our very large operations of CO2 enhanced oil recovery projects in the Permian Basin are generating significant value for our company. And we're starting in the Permian Basin to develop a strategy that will take anthropogenic CO2, that's man-made CO2 from industry, and take that CO2 to the Permian Basin for sequestration. So what the world now knows that wasn't known before is that to be able to achieve the 2-degree cap on global warming that the Paris Accord talked about and has an initiative to do, to achieve that, you must have carbon capture and sequestration. That has to be a part of the solution. Renewables alone won't get us there. So with our expertise handling CO2 and using CO2 and sequestering it in oil reservoirs, what that does is it enables us to use and will enable us to use newer technologies here in Oman ultimately that will create jobs in this sector, and not only creates jobs, but creates the opportunity to use the CO2 for enhanced oil recovery. So we'll increase our oil production, increase revenues for the country, and do it in a lower, no emission kind of environment. So that's really important for not only us, but for Vision 2040. In addition, that the slide on the lower side of the panel shows a direct capture process where that equipment takes air and then separates CO2 out of the air. And that's another potential source of CO2 for us to, again, lower the CO2 emissions in the atmosphere and then use that CO2 for the good of Oman and Oxy, the creation of jobs, the creation of additional oil revenue for the state. So we're really excited about that and think that that's something that we'll be able to use here that's, again, unique to what Oxy can do. And so I'll just close with the fact that as a CEO, I've had the opportunity to meet leaders from all around the world, both in business and government. And one thing I can tell you about I've even met the Pope, but one thing I can tell you about all of those things is that something you already know, and that is that there's no greater leader in the world than His Majesty Sultan Qaboos. And we at Oxy have complete confidence and trust in him, and trust in this vision, this 2040 vision. But also because of what I said earlier, knowing our Omani employees the way we do, having worked with them, knowing their character, knowing what they can do, we certainly have complete trust in all of you as well that we together will achieve this 2040 vision. Thank you.
نشكر الفاضلة فيكي هولب على حديثها، وندعو الفاضل خوليو استفيدار مستشار سياسات متعاقد بمكتب مستشار الدراسات والبحوث بديوان البلاط السلطاني لتقديم عرض مرئي، فليتفضل مشكورا.
Excellencies, Highnesses, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor for me to be able to contribute to the debate on Vision 2040 for Oman, and in particular, to see the role of the private sector in the years ahead. To do that, it is useful to cast a glance backward and see where Oman came from and where Oman finds itself today. This is the way the economy has grown over the past 50 years or so in Oman. This is the point where His Majesty took over in 1970. At that time, in the country, there were 10 kilometers of paved roads. In a country that is bigger than the UK, that is bigger than Italy, 10 kilometers, and there were only 3 schools. All 3 were elementary schools, and all 3 were only for boys. This is where Oman started under His Majesty. And look around yourselves today. What an amazing achievement when you have a wise leader. And growth has been continuous. Most of the dips have been caused by external factors. You see, the first one there was caused by the global financial crisis. The second one, when the oil price collapsed. This has been a great success story, and it has been led by the government. The government has been the largest investor in infrastructure and in the provision of services. It is true, though, that the private sector was the one that built the infrastructure, but always as a contractor to the government. So this is not a bad model. Many successful economies have followed a similar model. When you have a wise government, it can work wonders. If not, think about it. Oman has far smaller oil and gas resources than many countries in the region or around the world. Venezuela was mentioned yesterday, for example. So this is a good model, but it has some limitations. There comes a moment where the government cannot be the sole engine of the economy for a country. You can create only so much infrastructure. At some point, you have to begin to extract value out of it. At that point, the private sector has to take over. Second limitation is that even though it has been so successful, there are some side effects that are not so good. For example, the private sector in Oman is very dependent on the government. The government, in turn, is still very involved in economic activity, in business. And despite so many decades of working side by side, a lot of incomprehension was detected between the private sector and the government sector. So we're going to look closely into each one of these 3 elements in turn. Private sector and government. The dependence of the private sector on the government is directly from the government and from state-owned enterprises for procurement, for investment, for business in general, but most importantly, also for payments. When the government has a financial squeeze and has to delay payments, the private sector suffers. Second, the widespread dependence of the private sector on the government is so great that if you remove from the picture all the companies that have a heavy dependence on the government, there's not much left but traders and small companies. There are some notable exceptions. For example, Oman's first multinational company and some other ones. But in general, what remains are traders and small companies. And traders, by definition, do not create much added value. For example, if a company here imports a vehicle and sells it to a local consumer, it's not really creating value. And that leaves us with a private sector that it is a bit weaker than it could be in terms of creating value. And to take the example of Professor Hausmann yesterday, the private sector here doesn't have too many letters to build words and to build many words or more complex words. And value creation is very closely associated with innovation. So it is interesting to have a look at the position of Oman in terms of the company's capacity to innovate. This index was created by the World Economic Forum. The most innovative country in terms of the company's capacity to innovate is Switzerland, followed by the United States, and there on the top levels you find the Scandinavian countries and Germany and Singapore and so on. So the question arises, where is Oman here? there. It is a couple of positions below Bangladesh, Cambodia, Albania. So that shows that companies in Oman have a lot of room to improve their capacity for innovation. When we look now at the government involvement in business, in the economic activities, it is done through state-owned enterprises, of which Oman has about 60. So it is useful to have a look at the reasons why any economy in the world would have for setting up state-owned enterprises. Number one is because when an economy begins to develop and the country has an industrial policy, it makes sense for the government to set up some industries to get things rolling. Also to promote regional development or to provide services and public goods that the private sector cannot provide, or also, and this is very important, to open up markets where initially, and this is also important, where initially the private sector does not see a business case for getting involved. But the key point of all of this is when you reach these goals, the state-owned enterprises should exit the market, meaning that when you define the goals for these companies, the goal should be made public because the public is the ultimate shareholder of these companies. And at that moment, also, the exit strategy should be defined. But what happens in Oman? In many cases, after the market has been opened, the state-owned enterprises do not exit. And not only that, they begin to expand by creating new companies, buying some private companies, and creating some holdings that are bent on expansion. And even more, sometimes they look around and they see some area of economic activity that has been performed so far only by the private sector, and they smell good business there, and they say, well, we want a piece of the action, and they get into that business as well. And the problem is that the state-owned enterprises are, in a way, an extension of the government, and they compete with the private sector. They crowd it out of some economic activities, and that is one of the reasons behind the miscomprehension between the private sector and the public sector that we mentioned. So to find out the dimensions or the type of miscomprehension that we found, back in 2013, a survey was conducted in Oman, and we're going to show you the results with a bit of humor. This is what the private sector was saying back then. The government doesn't know what we're going through. We need a relationship that is more transparent, more open, and more based on trust. And they claimed that the attitude of the government was us versus them. And they claimed that the government over-strategizes but then under-delivers. On the government side, they were casting doubt on the necessity of having PPP projects, public-private partnerships, exactly the type of projects that bring both sectors together. They also saw themselves, the government, as the protectors of the citizens against the private sector. And they considered the private sector as their contractor. And after so many years of giving them contracts, now it is time for them to give back. So back at that time, His Majesty created the Sharaka Task Force. Sharaka is an Arabic word that means partnership, and brought top-level representatives of the government, ministerial level, together with top-level representatives of the private sector to get to know each other, to create a dialogue, and also for the government to talk to itself. And it worked wonders. Game-changing, pivotal initiatives came out of it. For example, the drafting of the PPP law, a world-class law that is currently under review at the Ministry of Finance. The creation of a PPP authority, which is going to kick in once the PPP law has been enacted. The creation of the National Training Fund, which is doing a fantastic job of preparing young Omanis for jobs that actually exist in the economy. Also, the national leadership programs for both government leaders and private sector leaders. The two waves of improvement of the ease of doing business in the country. This is an ongoing process. The National Youth Program for Skills Development and also the Oman Business Forum, which is expanding the scope of action of the Sharaka. So this has been taken care of, and this is working well. And this is where Oman came from and where Oman finds itself today. So what happens when we look forward? What do we see? We see two big opportunities. One of them is a lot of young people. Young people bring energy and vigor to any economy. They bring ideas, and this revolution happening now, it is your revolution. Young people of Oman, this is your revolution. Make it yours. And the second one is a big technological revolution, the one that is being called the Fourth Industrial Revolution, which is going to offer Oman a chance to leapfrog. It's going to offer the private sector more letters with which to build more words, more complex words. It is also going to offer opportunities for women, because you can work from anywhere, from your local Starbucks, from your home. But these two big opportunities are, at the same time, big challenges. Because all of these young people, or the greatest majority of them, we're talking about 30,000 to 50,000 young people entering the labor market every year, need to be employed mostly in the private sector. You have to give these young people a sense of purpose. You have to give them meaningful employment. And that means that youth has to become the focal point of economic and social policy making in Oman for the next 10 years, 20 years, 40 years. Second, this unfolding technological revolution is going to upset the labor market, the very labor market where we want to bring all of these young people. We don't know exactly what is going to change, because we human beings tend to underestimate the effects of technological changes in the short term, but underestimate them in the long term. So we overestimate in the short term and underestimate in the long term. Think internet, think social media. So these are big challenges, and neither the government nor the private sector on their own can tackle them. They need each other. So that means they have to rebalance their relationship. Like all industrial revolutions in the past, this one is going to be driven by the private sector. So that means that the role of the government sector has to change. Now the government's role is to make it possible by creating the right regulatory environment to make it possible for the private sector to become the main motor of the economy. So that means the mentality has to shift, both in the government sector and in the private sector. The government is going to need to be faster, because in the past, policymakers had the luxury of being able to sit back for a couple of years and see how a technology would unfold before they craft regulations. But now, things are changing so quickly that they don't have this luxury anymore. So they have to understand these technologies. They have to move faster. And also, they have to give more room for the private sector to develop, meaning that the government should reduce its involvement in economic activity. And, of course, the private sector has to become more innovative. How do we get there? We have to prepare the leaders. We have to make them understand the technologies that they have to regulate. We have to make the business leaders to understand that the cheap labor model is only going to get them so far. And with these new technologies, it's going to get them nowhere. So they have to be willing to embrace change. And very important, to improve regulations, you need a whole of government approach. Not one single ministry in Oman knows everything about these big challenges and has all the tools at its disposal to be able to tackle them. It needs the other ministries. It needs coordination. It needs collaboration, also with the private sector. And this coordinating function could be well provided by a Ministry of the Economy, which is one of the big pieces in Oman that is missing in the institutional framework. Then openness. Let yourselves be infected by new ideas, new approaches. And we have to provide our youth with the right attitudes and skills and knowledge to flourish in this new environment. So we need to see our youth not as a problem to be solved, but an asset to be deployed. This should be the attitude of the whole country. But most of all, what we need is to go beyond just cooperation between the main actors in the economy. We have to go to collaboration among them. But wait a minute, is it cooperation, collaboration, more or less the same thing, different words? What's the difference? Well, there is a difference. It's not very big, but it's significant. If somebody says, I need to dig a hole, and I said, here, you can use my shovel, that's cooperation. But if the person says, I need to dig a hole, and I say, here, I'll give you a hand, that's collaboration. Coming from co, meaning with, and labor, meaning work. Work with, to work together. That's what we need. When the government sees the private sector trying to become the main motor of the economy, the attitude of the government should be, how can we help you? When the private sector sees these thousands of young Omanis looking for minimum employment, the attitude of the private sector must be, how can we help you? When the education and training systems see the government and the private sector trying to make this Vision 2040 a reality, the attitude must be, how can we help you? We are all on the same boat, and only by working together, by collaborating, by going in the same direction, are we going to be able to move forward with confidence to accomplish the very ambitious goals that the country has set itself for 2040. Thank you so much.
حضورنا الكريم، نشكر الفاضل خوليو استفيدار على حديثه، وندعو الشيخ نصر بن عامر الحوسني الرئيس التنفيذي لشركة المركز المالي مدير الجلسة، والمشاركين الفاضلة كيكو هوندا، سعادة قيس بن محمد اليوسف، سعادة قيس بن محمد اليوسف، الفاضلة فيكي هولب، الفاضلة كاملة بنت علوي العوفية، الفاضل خوليو استفيدار لبدء الجلسة، فنرجو منهم التفضل.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي وفق العاملين لطاعته فوجدوا سعيهم مشكورا، وحقق آمال الآملين برحمته فمنحهم عطاء موفورا، وأسبل من نعمه على الطالبين وابلا غزيرا. الحضور الكريم، أسعد الله صباحكم بكل خير. عنوان جلستنا دور القطاع الخاص في تحقيق رؤية 2040، وسنحاول أن نعرج في هذه الجلسة على 5 محاور: القطاع الخاص والتنمية المستدامة، بناء اقتصاد يعتمد على المعرفة، جذب الاستثمارات، الشراكة بين القطاعان العام والخاص، وتمكين القطاع الخاص. الحوار سيكون باللغة العربية، وهناك ترجمة فورية متوفرة للجميع لأطروحات المتحدثين الدوليين، والأسئلة ستكون عبر التطبيق الإلكتروني. الآن، القطاع الخاص في رؤية 2040 ماكينة التحول الاقتصادي، نمو سنوي بمعدل متوسط 6%، سهولة العمل التجاري من أفضل 10 دول في العالم، مؤشر التصدير من أفضل 10 دول في العالم، مساهمة القطاعات النفطية في الناتج الإجمالي المحلي المستهدف 93%، أن يكون القطاع الخاص الموظف الأول والأكبر وربما حتى الوحيد للعمانيين، اقتصاد متنوع ولا يعتمد على الإنفاق الحكومي الرأسمالي، بل مصدر أساسي للإيرادات الحكومية كالضرائب والرسوم وغيرها، قطاع خاص بتركيبة متنوعة، شركات عامة، عائلية، أجنبية، عالمية يعتاش عليها قطاع شركات صغيرة ومتوسطة مبتكر، قطاع خاص جريء مبادر وسريع التفاعل مع العالم ومستثمر في البحوث والابتكار بدون احتكار أو تكتلات قطاعية ولا نظام كفالات أو رعايات، يتغذى على التخصيص الحكومي المستمر في الأصول والخدمات، وينفذ ويدير في شراكات عامة مشاريع البنى التحتية الأساسية من خلال سوق أوراق مالية عميق وسائل، قطاع خاص شريك فاعل في التكتلات الاقتصادية الإقليمية والدولية، يجذبها الاستقرار ويغريها الهدوء السياسي والقوانين الواضحة. قطاعنا الخاص 2040 طموح مستحق وأرقام ونسب ممكنة إذا ما مكنت. دعونا إذن نبدأ الحوار أولاً مع أخي سعادة قيس اليوسف. ماذا يحتاج القطاع الخاص العماني لكي يساهم في تحقيق المؤشرات الاقتصادية المستهدفة في رؤية 2040؟
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أخي الشيخ نصر، الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. بداية نشكر القائمين باسمي وباسم القطاع الخاص وزملائي في الغرفة، نشكر القائمين المنظمين على هذا الحدث الوطني الهام. ونحن نقف جميعا اليوم من أجل عمان ومستقبل عمان في ظل القيادة الحكيمة لمولانا حفظه الله ورعاه. وما يثلج الصدر أن هناك مشاركة واسعة في صياغة هذه المسودة الأولى، ونحن إن شاء الله متفائلين. والقطاع الخاص شارك من جميع محافظات السلطنة في الإعداد لها. بخصوص القطاع الخاص فإن لله الحمد خلال 48 سنة ومن من النهضة ومن التنمية الشاملة، فإن القطاع الخاص رأيناه وحسب السنوات الماضية فإنه قادر على العطاء والاستثمار والتنمية. وهناك أمثلة كثيرة شاهدناها ونشاهدها أنه ساهم ويساهم في الاستثمار في قطاعات مختلفة مثل التعليم والنفط والغاز والسياحة والخدمات المالية والتصنيع والتعدين وغيرها. وخاصة وإن قارناه من مرحلة التسعينات إلى ما وصل إليه اليوم، حتى أن هناك تقدم وتحسن في نوعية القطاعات، وهذا ما أشار له أيضا بروفيسور هوسمان بالأمس عندما قال من الضرورة ما يسماه الكومبلكسيتي، economic complexity، وهذا الحمد لله احنا يعني قطعنا شوط وما زال أمامنا الكثير. فيما يتعلق بسؤالك عن الممكنات، طبعا هناك إيجابيات كثيرة، ولكن نحن هنا نتناقش عن الممكنات وماذا نحتاج كقطاع خاص في المرحلة القادمة. أنا يعني أعتقد النقطة الأولى والأساسية تسهيل بيئة الأعمال. وتسهيل بيئة الأعمال يعني يأتي ذلك من خلال أولاً الإسراع في القوانين والتشريعات التي تخدم الجانب الاستثماري والتجاري في السلطنة. الجانب الثاني هو المراجعة المستمرة لهذه القوانين والتشريعات. ثالثاً تبسيط الإجراءات، رغم أن هناك تحسن ملحوظ خلال السنتين الماضيتين، وحتى أن مؤشرات السلطنة في المؤشرات الدولية في تحسن لله الحمد، لكن أعتقد هذه الأمور دائما بحاجة للتحسن، لأن هذه الأمور ديناميكية وبحاجة لمراجعة مستمرة. ثالثا أو رابعا ما يتعلق بتحسين بيئة الأعمال أن يكون أن القطاع الخاص ممثل في الغرفة شريك شريك في القرارات ذات الشأن الاقتصادي، ويتم الأخذ برأيه في جميع القرارات اللي تعنى بالشأن الاقتصادي. النقطة الثانية من الممكنات، النقطة الأولى كانت تسهيل بيئة الأعمال، النقطة الثانية ممكن نتحدث فيها عن موضوع اللي أشار له البروفيسور خوليو في عرضه عن تعريف القطاع الخاص، أو ما يسمى تعريف القطاع الخاص الحقيقي، حيث أن مثل ما أشار إليه البروفيسور نحن نرى اليوم أن القطاع الخاص الأدوار أصبحت غير معرفة. ما هو دور الحكومة وما هو دور القطاع الخاص وما هو المطلوب من كل قطاع ومن كل قطاع أن يعمله ما بين القطاع الخاص والحكومة والمجتمع. فما لاحظ اليوم أن هناك يعني أن في ازدياد في عدد الشركات الحكومية مثل ما أشار له البروفيسور، وهذا طبعا شيء واضح، وحتى نظرنا بعض المؤشرات الدولية نرى أن هذا ينعكس في المؤشرات الدولية مثل مؤشر فريزر الحرية الاقتصادية. فمن ناحية أن هناك يعني هذه الشركات الحكومية لأن حساباتها وبياناتها المالية غير متوفرة، فنحن أيضا هذه تعتبر أيضا عبء على الموازنة العامة، في وقت نحن دائما نسعى الحين لتخفيف العبء للموازنة العامة. من جانب آخر نتزاحم القطاع الخاص، من جانب آخر ثالث فإن هي أيضا تزاحم في جذب الموارد البشرية. وأما ما المقترح أن على الأقل أن يكون في ما يتعلق بهذا هما في 4 يعني ممكنات. الممكن الثاني ما يتعلق بتعريف القطاع الخاص، ونحن نقترح أن مثلا في موضوع الشراكة الشراكات الحكومية يعرف الدور، والقطاع الخاص الحقيقي يقوم بدوره في القطاعات التي لا يمكن القطاع الخاص أنه يدخل فيها باعتبارها مشاريع تنموية وهي مشاريع بحاجة إلى استثمار طويل الأجل. ممكن يكون في التخارج يكون أكثر وضوحا، لكن في كل الأحوال تكون البيانات المالية لهذه الشركات متوفرة حتى تكون مراجعتها يكون أيضا فيها نوع من الوضوح، حتى نعرف ماذا تحمل الموازنة العامة للدولة. الشيء الثالث من ناحية الممكنات اللي هو تنظيم سوق العمل تعزيز الإنتاجية، ومثل ما قال وأيضا مراجعة تشريعات داعمة لذلك، ومثل ما قال مولانا حضرة صاحب جلالة السلطان المعظم في أعتقد لما كنت راجع في العيد الوطني في خطبته في العيد الوطني 28 أن الإنسان العماني هو أداة التنمية وصانعها وهو هدفها وغايتها، فبالتالي لا بد من دائما التطوير الإنسان وتأهيله وتدريبه بحيث أنه يصبح ممكن أنه يقدر أنه يتواكب مع المتطلبات المرحلة القادمة، وخاصة نحن الحين مقبلين على الثورة الصناعية الرابعة. نحن متفائلين طبعا جدا بمركز الوطني للتشغيل، وإن شاء الله نرى أن هناك قد يكون هناك مساهمة طيبة في هذا الجانب. النقطة الرابعة والأخيرة هو موضوع سرعة اتخاذ القرار، وخاصة القرار الاقتصادي. نحن دائما يعني كقطاع خاص ما يعنينا السرعة في اتخاذ القرار، وأنه يكون هو القرار يكون يغطي أو ينسق الجهات المختلفة، وأنه يكون يعني لأن أي رؤية وأي استراتيجية يجب أن تكون فيها سريعة في التنفيذ، فلما يكون للتنفيذ أحساس أنه يحقق الرؤية بشكل مستمر لازم يكون في أيضا تنفيذ سريع ويكون قرار اقتصادي سريع. فنحن أيضا نقترح أن يكون أيضا هناك لقاء مستمر ما بين الغرفة والقطاع الخاص، القطاع الخاص ممثل بالغرفة مع الحكومة والجهات وخاصة الوزراء وأصحاب القرار المعنيين بالشأن الاقتصادي على الأقل مرتين كل سنة، حتى أن يكون في تبادل الآراء وحتى أن واحد يقيم ما وصلنا إليه وما يمكن أن نحسنه. اعذرني على الإطالة.
لا أنا
سؤالك كان
بالشأن المحلي بداية ثم سنذهب للشأن الدولي العام. لكن بروفيسور خوليو، لك 3 أعوام في السلطنة مستشار للدراسات والبحوث. نفس السؤال، ماذا يحتاج القطاع الخاص العماني ليساهم في تحقيق المؤشرات المستهدفة في الرؤية؟
Okay, thank you. One thing is the private sector should question its business model more critically. As I mentioned before, a model based only on cheap labor is only going to get you so far. This is one thing. But in order for the private sector to unfold, the government has to give more field of action for the private government to make it possible for it to spread its wings. Think about what happened in China. The moment that the private sector could take off, the entire economy took off. Or if you compare Hong Kong and China, Hong Kong, lots of free enterprise, and compared to China was a bigger economy, even though it was so tiny. So in Oman at the moment, it is still difficult. There's still a lot of red tape. It is difficult for the private sector to operate. The private sector is clever. They're always going to find the best ways to make money, which is the business of the private sector. The business of business is to make business. So make it possible for them, because when that happens, the entire economy grows. And the only thing that creates sustainable jobs is a growing economy. So reduce red tape, make it easier for companies to operate, to be set up, to expand, and make it also easy for them to collaborate with the private sector and, as I said, with the state sector by exchanging data between both of them. Data is a new national resource, but it is useless if you don't extract it, if you don't create products out of it. And the exchange of data between the government and the private sector is going to help both in terms of policy making for the government sector and in terms of making more informed decisions on the side of the private sector. So give it the opportunity to unfold its wings. And as the private sector grows, employment is going to grow and the economy is going to grow.
فيكي هولب، كيف تستطيع الشركات العالمية أن تساهم في نقل المعرفة وتنمية دور المؤسسات الصغيرة والمتوسطة؟
Well, I think that we continue to grow that part of the private industry, and I think we need to just expand the diversity of those businesses, and also the help with the learning that they need with respect to how to run a business, the strategy, how to run the financials, how to make money generally, and so it's up to the private businesses to help, and in some cases for the private companies now to ring fence aspects of their business to ensure that there's the ability for an SME to start up and be competitive faster with international companies that come in and do the same type of business. So the way we've been able to do that is just to select certain aspects of our business, give the small businesses the chance to, without the initial competition, just the ability to get awarded work to begin their part of that segment in business to get started up and going, and then ultimately be competitive with external businesses.
هل لك أن تعطينا بعض التجارب لشركة أوكسي في دول العالم حيث قامت بالمساهمة في تطوير القطاعات الصغيرة والمتوسطة؟
Yeah, we've not only done it here in Oman, we do it in Colombia. And in Colombia, we have some programs where we established a foundation that enabled a local community to actually put together a business to make chocolates. And they started making chocolates and actually have gotten to the point where they're selling those chocolates. No, this is out in the smaller communities in Colombia where they're doing this. They're now selling those chocolates in Starbucks in Bogota and making money. And so that was through a foundation that put the business model together and supported the growth of that business. What we do there that we're also considering to start doing here is providing microloans. These are loans to small businesses that couldn't otherwise get a loan from a bank because of just the fact that they're starting up with no collateral. To give them a microloan so that they can actually start their business gives them the chance to get up and running and ultimately to establish a business. And I'll say that we've had no issues with those loans being paid back. And so that's the exciting part of that. These entrepreneurs, they take their business seriously and they have the integrity once they're up and running, to pay the loans back.
كيكو هوندا كرئيس تنفيذي لوكالة ضمان الاستثمارات في البنك الدولي، ومن خلال تجاربك الدولية، ما هي عوامل نجاح جذب الاستثمار الأجنبي المباشر؟ وهل لك أن تطلعينا على بعض قصص النجاح؟
Good morning, Your Excellency, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen. Well, thank you very much for having me this morning. I represent the Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency. We are part of the World Bank Group. What we really do is to helping developing country attract cross-border private investment by ensuring private investors against the potential non-commercial risks and or enhancing their credit for some credit-worthy countries. We are currently covering about $23 billion of private investment into infrastructure such as power, telecommunication, transportation, and creating jobs by bringing manufacturing and service company. Based on those experience, I can share with you two things. First of all, infrastructure for most of the governments, both developed and developing, are not building infrastructure by themselves. They have been leveraging private sector. I'm talking about not only in Oman, Egypt, Jordan, which we really help, but also talking about United Kingdom as well as United States. And also second, private investors through the competitive bids, this is important, sometimes bring a better solution. If government have to provide everything, government is the only typical one for all of us. But private investors, you have multiple, sometimes millions of choices. And private investors, as Occidental, the Madam CEO mentioned, are very keen to compete, as well as they are also very keen and also very good at selecting their suppliers, their partners through the competitions. I think this is the area like you can improve and you can really leverage. If I may, I can just give you two examples that we are working on your nearby friends called Egypt. First, we have been helping Egypt to make the world's largest solar power park. It's called Bembam Park. It's near Aswan. The capacity there is about 1,600 megawatts. But this was only possible by working with us with the World Bank Group. First, the World Bank itself worked with the government to reform the sector. The Egyptian government used to subsidize power generation quite massively. But through the World Bank team's support, Egyptian government decided to rationalize it. In other words, started to charging the cost at the tariff level. Of course, they can consider for not so in a great financial conditions, they have a different way to support them. But everybody, including like small business, large business, as well as everybody do recognize now what kind of cost is required to generate the power. Then IFC and our sister institutions and ASK got together to find the investors from around the world to make this world's largest solar power park possible. And also, I'd like to give you another example in Egypt. We have successfully brought two manufacturing companies into Egypt. One is the glass tableware manufacturer. I visited them last month. They have created more than 300, 400 jobs, including the engineering jobs, and then also started to exporting to earn the foreign currencies. So there are very good examples, and also I'm very, very happy to see this Oman 2040 paper, which has high aspirations. At the same time, government is strongly committed to make the change happening, including improving the investment climate in this country.
Thank you. Very good.
كاملة العوفية، وفرت الدولة نوافذ عديدة لتمويل المشاريع الصغيرة والمتوسطة. ما هي العقبات التي تواجهها هذه المؤسسات من خلال تجربتك الشخصية؟
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أولاً أشكر القائمين على إتاحة لنا الفرصة التحدث في هذا المؤتمر، وأكون مع القامة الموجودين، وأن إن شاء الله نثري هذه الجلسة بالحوارات المثرية والرسالة التي توصل من القطاع الخاص لكل المعنيين. أولاً القطاع الخاص يعد هي الركيزة والشريك الأساسي في التنمية الاقتصادية وفي كل المجالات وفي كل الجوانب. بالنسبة للتمويل، تمويل المشاريع، أتوقع من رؤيتي الشخصية ورأيي الخاص عكفت الدولة على كثير من السبل وكثير من الطرق لتمويل المشاريع، سواء الصغيرة والمتوسطة أو الكبيرة، من أولها بنك التنمية إلى لا ننسى أن في ساحة الشامخات كان التركيز على الشركات الصغيرة والمتوسطة، وانبثقت منها الريادة، وانبثق منها صندوق رفد، وهذه كلها سبل لتعزيز القطاع الخاص ولتمويله ليكون الرافد الأساسي في الاقتصاد. ما في شك في عقوبات، في تحديات كثيرة تواجه هذا التمويل، وتواجه، والعقبة الأكبر هي أن نتكلم بالتدرج بالنسبة للشركات الصغيرة والمتوسطة. مثل ما يعرف الجميع، الشركة الصغيرة والمتوسطة إذن هي صغيرة ومتوسطة من الكلمة، إذن لا تملك ما تملك الممكنات من أخذ القرض مع الشروط التي يعني تطرح لهذه الشركات. فأنا أتوقع من رأيي الخاص أن نترك الشركات الخاصة أو الشركات الصغيرة المتوسطة يكون لها يعني رؤية مختلفة وفكر مختلف في تمويلها. يشترط أولاً حق صاحب العمل أو صاحب الشركة دفع الإيجارات مقدمة. كثير من المعوقات اللي تترك صاحب العمل في تحدي كبير مع نفسه ومع شركته، وفي النهاية يعني ما راح يستمر في الشغل في حال إنه هو تكادست عليه الديون والالتزامات. بالنسبة للشركات الكبيرة، أنا في توقعي أن الشركات الكبيرة تحظى بحظ أوفر، لأن يكون عندها رأس مال أو عندها ممكنات أكثر إعطائها مثلا للبنوك أو للجهات التمويلية. فهذا بالنسبة للشركات.
أخي قيس تفضل.
شيخ نصر، بس كان مداخل على سؤالك عن موضوع الاستثمار. أنا بس ما حبيت أن يكون الاستثمار هدف بحد ذاته. الاستثمار هو هدف يحقق هو أداة لتحقيق أهداف وطنية استراتيجية، مثلا أن يساهم في التنويع الاقتصادي للدولة، أن يقوم بإيجاد وظائف متجددة وجديدة للعمانيين خاصة، أن يقوم بنقل التكنولوجيا، أن يعزز التنويع الاقتصادي. إذا ما حقق على الأقل الاستثمار الأجنبي هذا الأهداف، فأفضل نحن نحمي مؤسساتنا الصغيرة والمتوسطة ونركز عليه، نخلي الاستثمارات تأتي من خلال المؤسسات العمانية ومن خلال المؤسسات الصغيرة والمتوسطة، وحتى نحميها من أي نوع من الاحتكار والمنافسة.
الطرح الآخر هو أن الشركات الصغيرة والمتوسطة تحتاج إلى قطاعات كبيرة تتغذى عليها، وبالتالي حتى نوعية الاستثمارات التي تأتي من الخارج يجب أن تكون ناقلة للمعرفة وتعمل على تنمية هذه الشركات الصغيرة والمتوسطة. كان هناك طرح في بروفيسور خوليو، كان هناك طرح في أهمية وجود مؤسسة معنية بالإدارة التنفيذية للاقتصاد. هل لك أن تتحدث بإسهاب عن هذا الأمر؟
Many countries have similar things, and it works pretty well usually, where you have a group of good minds sitting down together and looking at the possibilities for the country. But it works best when you have everyone around the table, like you do in Germany, for example. You have many opportunities for the private sector and the government and the education sector to sit down together and plan for the future. To give you a couple of examples, in these times of changing technologies and so on, it makes a lot of sense for industry to sit down with the universities and with the training institutes to develop curricula together, and for the government to be part of it, because they have to provide the regulatory environment for that as well, and to understand the private sector, to understand these technologies. If you want to regulate something, you need to understand it first. So sitting down together, like Oman has started to do with the Sharaka, also with the Supreme Council for Planning, it is good to have a body that looks ahead, that anticipates what the country is going to need in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, and begin to prepare young Omanis by identifying the skill sets that are going to be required in the future, and then train Omanis for those skill sets. A well-trained Omani does not need to be protected, only needs to be supported. And we can do it only by sitting down together and understanding the other sector.
أخي سعادة قيس، هناك طرح كان في الجلسات الثانوية عن أن القطاع الخاص يتعامل مع عدة أطراف في القطاع العام الآن، وأن من المهم أن يكون هناك قرين واحد للقطاع الخاص من القطاع العام. هل لك أن تتحدث عن ذلك؟
الشيخ نصر، هو يعني الكلام أن مهما يعني حاولنا أن ستكون هناك جهات مختلفة سيتعامل معها القطاع الخاص، لأن فيها اختصاصات مختلفة. لكن حسب ما رأينا في المسودة الأولى من الرؤية، والتي هي حتى جاءت من آراء مختلف المشاركين في هذه الجلسات، أن هناك حاجة إلى جهة مرجعية. المقصود بجهة مرجعية، ماذا يحتاج القطاع الخاص؟ يحتاج سرعة القرار، تنسيق القرار ذات الشأن الاقتصادي، ومن ثم هذه الجهة تعطى صلاحيات تنفيذية. لماذا؟ الحين هناك جهات مختلفة، كل الجهات تقوم بدورها على أكمل وجه رغم التحديات، لكن كل جهة تقوم بدورها على حسب اختصاصاتها وصلاحياتها. بعض الأوقات هناك أولويات يجب تحديدها. من يحدد هذه الأولويات؟ مثلا عندنا قطعة أرض، هذه ممكن تستخدم أرض لسياحة أو تعدين أو لشيء آخر. من يحدد هذه الأولويات؟ على ماذا؟ مثلا نحن عندنا مثلا مشروع سياحي نفس الوقت يتقاطع مع مشروع آخر، من يقوم بذلك؟ عندنا مثلا معدل البطالة أو معدل التضخم زاد، من مسؤول عن هذا المعدل؟ عندنا تحدي ما يتعلق بالاستثمار، إلى من نذهب؟ في جهات كثيرة، لكن نحن نتمنى يكون جهة مرجعية واحدة تقوم هذه الجهة المرجعية بالتنسيق مع الجهات الأخرى، حيث يكون القرار سريع منسق، وأيضا يكون هذا الجهة عندها صلاحية التنفيذ. ومن ثم هذه الجهة حتى أن ما شرط تكون جهة جديدة. عمان نحن دائما نقول يعني ما تكون جهة جديدة، قد تكون أحد الجهات الموجودة حاليا تعطى صلاحيات أكثر بهذا الجانب. ومن ثم حتى ممكن الجهة هذه تكون مسؤولة عن الرؤية وتحقيقها، مثل ما قلنا قبل قليل أن الرؤية مهما يعني اجتهدنا فيها تبقى نجاحها في أدوات التنفيذ، فقد تكون الجهة أيضا معنية بأدوات التنفيذ. نحن الآن حتى برنامج التنفيذ نجحنا في نحن كنا مشاركين كقطاع خاص أن نجحنا في نقلة نوعية طيبة في إدارة يعني المشاريع. فكان في حتى مؤشر أداء مع لوحة تنفيذ تحول شهريا، ومن ثم تحاول أن تشوف التحديات وتحلها. فهناك تجربة جيدة. فممكن يكون هذه الجهة أيضا تقوم بالتنسيق والاتخاذ القرار فيما يساهم للهدف الأساسي، هو ماذا؟ أن يكون هناك توسعة الاقتصاد، تسهيل بيئة الأعمال، حتى يكون في نحقق الرؤية أهدافها حسب المؤشرات الموضوع لها.
إذن جهة معنية بتسريع الإجراءات وتسهيلها ومفوضة في اتخاذ القرار الاقتصادي. تفضلي كاملة.
أنا أريد فقط أضيف، سألتني عن تمويل المشاريع، وطبعا يعني يمكن أن أجاوب باختصار شديد. يعني وجود التسهيلات والتمويل للشركات الصغيرة والمتوسطة ما في شك موجود من بنك التنمية وإلى الرفد أخيرا. لكن احنا تعودنا في عمان ومن تولي صاحب الجلالة أن إحنا نمشي بخطى بطيئة وثابتة، وهذا السياسة عمت الجميع حتى للمؤسسات الصغيرة والمتوسطة، للقطاع الخاص. نمشي بخطى ثابتة ولكنها مدروسة. أحيانا يمكن إعطاء التمويل بطريقة يمكن يحلم فيها القطاع الخاص كما يريد، لأن حلم أي تاجر أنه يأخذ رأس المال اللي يشتغل واللي ينتج، وهذا يعني هدف كل تاجر. لكن السياسات والتشريعات مختلفة تماماً، التصورات عكس المتوقع. لكن في خضم هذه التحذيرات أو خضم هذه السياسات اللي لطريقة التمويل، رغم هذا في شركات صغيرة ومتوسطة يعني أعتقد أنها ملت البلد، والقطاع الخاص داخل بقوة، في تذمر في جانب وفي عقد اتفاق في جانب آخر. فالنظرة الشمولية على أساس أن نكون متفائلين، وهذه الرؤية طبعا هي منبثقة من فكر واضح بأن السياسة تذهب إلى اقتصاد أعلى وممكن أكثر.
بروفيسور خوليو، يعتقد البعض أن النموذج الاقتصادي العماني بطيء وثابت ومستقر، قد يقابله نموذج آخر سريع وجريء. المرحلة القادمة هل تتطلب السلطنة إعادة النظر بين النموذجين، أو هل بإمكاننا أن نجمع النموذجان معا؟
You have to think that you have between 30,000 and 60,000 young people entering the job market every year, which means you have to move faster. It is not that Oman is not creating enough jobs. Oman has enough jobs. It's not the same situation as you have, for example, in France or Italy or Spain or Greece, where unemployment is caused by lack of jobs. Here you have jobs. In 2017, you created like 165,000 jobs, of which only about 15,000 were taken by Omanis. So if you want to give minimum employment to all of these young Omanis, you have to move faster. So it has been a steady progress so far, but it is not fast enough for the way the population is growing. Another example, the labor market in Oman has about 80% or a little bit more that are expatriates. That represents about 1.7 million people. And it's true that many of these jobs are not attractive to Omanis. But even if you say that 95% of these jobs are not attractive to Omanis, that leaves you with 5%, which is more or less 91,000 jobs that could be taken by Omanis. And you need to work on that, to get Omanis interested in these jobs, to help them discover what these jobs can give them. And at the moment, the default employer or the default option for young Omanis is a government job. And they are right in many ways because they have so many advantages, jobs for life, automatic promotion, early retirement, social prestige, and better marriage prospects for young men and so on. But this is not the way to the future. The way to the future in Oman is the private sector. So the young Omanis have to become more risk takers and prepare themselves for the private sector. And the slow pace of advance has been good up to this point, but everything, including your competitors, are beginning to move faster. So if you continue at the same pace, you're going to be left behind. So replying to your question, you have to be bolder. You have to create a lot more opportunities, open the eyes of the young people to what they can gain from the private sector and from the new technologies.
كيكو هوندا، هل لك أن تتحدثي عن النماذج الاقتصادية التي نصح بها البنك الدولي أو كانت لكم تجربة فيها، وبعض من التعليق على حديث البروفيسور؟
Well, thank you very much. This is my second time to visit Oman. For me, Oman is very safe. By the way, this is very important. Very safe, stable country. Have affluent young talent with good education. So there is a significant opportunity. I also like to give you another statistics. Foreign direct investment to the emerging market is more than 3 times of the ODA. So therefore, there are many countries leveraging internal private sector as well as cross-border private investment into the country. My understanding is, of course, job creation from the manufacturing service sector, including the SMEs of the country, is very important. At the same time, government have to catch up to build the infrastructure. What I really mean infrastructure is not only the power and water. I do mean broadband, mobile telecommunications, and beyond. For those things, you can always leverage the multiple private sector, and which also support diversifying your economy, leveraging more new technology. But to do so, you really need basic broadband network or faster mobile telecommunication. With that understanding, I'm very impressed. Your Oman 2040. You are really thinking about how to enhancing the infrastructure by leveraging more in-country as well as foreign direct investment. For me, one of the key success factors for such initiative is the government's commitment. The example I talked about in Egypt, Egyptian government was amazingly committed. As you know, Egyptian situation is a bit more challenging than Oman, but Egyptian government is very, very committed. That's why they are making it happening to enhancing the infrastructure. I have great, positive, optimistic future in this country. I think I like to continue to work together. World Bank Group overall ready not only to support the building the government capabilities, such as working on the PPP roads and so forth, but also IFC and Amiga are ready to bring more private investment, especially in the area of the infrastructure. Thank you.
فيكي هوب، هل لك أن تشاطرين تجربة أوكسي في عمان كمستثمر أجنبي؟
We've had a great experience here. I talked earlier about our predecessor company, City Service, was here in 55, but we've been here since the early 80s as Occidental Petroleum, and our experience here has been relative to many of the places that we work in the world. As was being said earlier, it's a very stable country. It's not only is it a stable country with leadership that we respect and admire, but the work ethic of the Omani people is incredible. And we have moved some Omanis throughout our organization, and they add value, they add significant value. Our workforce is creative. They're committed to goals and objectives. So we have found the work experience here in Oman to be as good or better than any other place that we've worked internationally. So now the international locations that we're in not only Oman, but Abu Dhabi, Qatar, and Colombia. We've pared down our industrial footprint to just these 4 countries, mainly because of the geopolitical concerns in some of the places that we were previously, but also some of the infrastructure challenges that some of the countries that we were in previously. We found here that we've gotten great support from the government, and we're committed to being here and to continuing to grow here.
في دقيقتان لكل متحدث رأيكم وملاحظاتكم العامة بعد هذا النقاش عن رؤية 2040. سأبدأ من بروفيسور خوليو.
One message for the private sector: trust your Omanis. Omanis are brilliant, but I have seen in my 3 years here that in many cases, when an employer is faced with the choice of an Omani and an expatriate, they take the expatriate. And there's no better investment that you as a private sector can do than to take on a well-trained and well-motivated Omani.
متفائلين كقطاع خاص، وعندنا الحدث بأن القادم أفضل، ونسعى جاهدين إلى أن الاقتصاد الخاص هو إذا هو لديه الثقل الأكبر والحمل الأكبر في التنمية الاقتصادية قادمة إن شاء الله.
I would just echo Dr. Julio and what I said earlier. We're using very advanced technology here in Oman, and we're even going to be using, as I showed earlier, technology that is leading edge technology. Our Omani staff is managing that, executing that, using those tools and advancing those tools. We're actually about to move one of our key Omani employees to Colombia because of his success and what he's been able to achieve here. We need him to do the same thing elsewhere. So I think from a staffing standpoint and the resources, people resources we have in this country, they're second to none. And so there's no reason why private enterprise shouldn't continue to grow. We don't need expats to fill all of our positions here in Oman. We have very, very qualified Omani employees that could compete anywhere in the world.
أنت لك أكثر من دقيقتين لأنك شهبندر التجار.
أنا خلصت.
أنت القطاع الخاص يعني.
الرؤية من خلال التصفح الأول المسودة الأولى هي رؤية جريئة. الرؤية بأهداف يعني ليست أهداف بسيطة ولا سهلة، أهداف بعضها يعني أهداف قد تكون يعني عالية أيضا، وهذا شيء جيد في الرؤية وأي استراتيجية إنه يكون في نوع أيضا من الطموح للتحقيق هذه الأرقام وهالمؤشرات. 6% متوسط النمو ليس بالسهل. إن أردنا فعلا، والإرادة موجودة طبعا، لكن الآن علينا أن أيضا هناك إرادة تغيير، وهناك أيضا جوانب تنفيذية يجب أن نتحرك اليوم من أجل التنفيذ، لأن هذه الرؤية بتبقى مسودة، لكن يجب أن ننطلق وتنفيذها. العامل المشترك في كل هذه الرؤية هو الإنسان العماني، هو الهدف وهو الغاية من التنمية، وأعتقد التركيز على الاستثمار فيه وتطوير المهارات والتدريب والتعليم، لأنه هو في النهاية نحن المسؤولين عنها. هذه الرؤية هي رؤيتنا، نحن مسؤولين عنها، نحن جزء منها، شاركنا فيها، ونحن إن شاء الله يعني بوجودنا هنا اليوم نتشارك ونتقدم، مثل ما تقول نتقدم بثقة حتى تصبح عمان في مصاف الدول المتقدمة إن شاء الله في القريب العاجل.
Thank you. I'd just like to state again, I personally really liked Oman 2040, which contains very high aspiration. But I also have to tell you, I see the strong commitment of the government. One thing we as a World Bank group to support continuously after kind of seeing this government's renewed commitment and then improving the investment climate here, we like to support the further investing in infrastructure in this country, because that will be absolutely necessary for you to achieve your ambitious Oman 2040 visions. But the good news is we have already started working on very large projects with the government. First, we like to finish it very quickly to show our commitment. That's definitely also put Oman's name up at the rest of the world. But we very, very happy to be here. We like to continue to working with all of you. Thank you very much for having me.
أعتقد أن التحدي الحقيقي في هذه الرؤية الطموحة هو إسقاطها على برامج من خلال الخطط الخمسية، برامج واقعية يساير هذه البرامج دور تنفيذي حكومي واضح بالنسبة للاقتصاد. شكراً لكم جميعاً وشكراً لكم على الحضور، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.